Yes. So now we take the 4 speakers, we break. When we come back from break, Honorable Mwango, Honorable Sols, Honorable Vessels, Honorable James, you should be ready because it will be your session. Honorable Cameron, your time starts now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chair. General, I can see the top of your head. We'll be ducking and diving here. Thank you, Chair. General, I'm going to jump straight into it. The first question is specifically regarding institutional stability and leadership. Yesterday, especially, you touched quite significantly on leadership models and challenges, that have been experienced over the years. And you specifically remarked that SAPS is continuously being restructured and that such restructuring is never completed. Has the frequent change in national commissioners contributed to that instability? I call it instability. We may call it something else, but I think you gather what the gist of my statement is. And which, if any, of the national commissioners that you know of have actually served a full term? I'm going to add a second question. Chair, is it fine if we do 2 questions again as earlier? And the second one is, what reforms would you suggest to secure leadership continuity and ensure that operational successes, like some of the ones that you've used examples from the PKTT, are not disrupted by changes at the top?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Honorable Chair, honorable members. The institutional instability in the organization, the causes of that, I like to believe that it's mainly because of the ever-changing national commissioners that we've had over time in the organization. And I think it started when Commissioner Silebi left. And I did an introduction, Honorable Chair members. You will recall that you are working on a national development plan as you are here in Parliament, which is supposed to be rolled out. And one of the recommendations in that plan talks about the demilitarization of the South African Police Service. So back in the days, the focus was about demilitarization of the police by introduction of the new ranks, and we change our training curriculum and so forth, amongst other things, in order to change how we do business. Although the criminal did not necessarily change the method of operations, but we had to try and fit into the democratic system of the country. So when that change happened in 2009, we had a new administration that was ushered in. And the new administration felt that the ranks that you are using are not strong enough to withstand the crime that is out there. And as a result, Honorable Chair, with your permission, maybe I should ask Honorable Mwango to enjoy the seat so that I can be able to see the honorable member that we are responding to, because he's not visible. If we enjoy the seat and sit back, yeah, that will do. Thank you so much.
Let me do like this. Honorable Mwango, may I request you to occupy the seat next to Honorable Shikela. You will come back so that there can be direct eye contact between the speaker and the witness. And thanks very much for your understanding. Honorable members, maybe before you resume, Honorable Shongwe, when you don't see him here, he's out on an emergency. He will rejoin us. We have also been joined by Honorable Matangu, who is a member of the National Assembly. Thank you so much. Back to you, Honorable Cameron.
I was still saying, Honorable Chair, that the frequent changes that happened and also the political changes that happened brought about this. You had, as I said, when the National Commissioner came in 2009 with the new administration that came in, there was this introduction of these military ranks. Today we have, I'm failing to count the number of generals. I think we are the ones who got the record number of generals that we have in the organization. And in the true sense of things, that the Constitution doesn't talk about the rank general. It talks about commissioners. But because of the will at the time that the executive changed that and amended the regulations and introduced these titles of generals, which honestly, if you were to ask me, I'd rather be called a provincial commissioner than be called a general. It's a military term that we should be using. It's some of the things that perhaps we might want to start looking at as going forward. But those, I think, contributed in such a manner that you have this then National Commission coming in. The Act gives powers to the National Commission to restructure. Before the restructuring is finalized, it's gone. You know how Gerard Pere left, how long he was in the police. Gerard Pere comes in. Well, I came in to act at the time. It was on an acting capacity, not permanent, but then Gerard Pere came in and she didn't last. There were issues and she left. So each time one comes in, then there's a structure is adjusted again. But the process of finalizing the structure takes long as well. It's something that should have been looked at differently to try and shorten the plan. But perhaps anyone who comes in as a national commission ought to have a strategy in the plan that maybe within the prescribed timelines, such a plan may need to be presented to the portfolio committee of police and be approved and adopted, and which must then be accompanied by the structure, so that once it's agreed there, then the structuring happens. Within the first 12 months, it must be finalized, so that at least you know for the rest of the term of that administration, you have a structure that is adjusted to fit a strategy that has been presented and approved and be adopted by government going forward. So those are some of the things that I feel perhaps we might want to look at adjusting as part of the reforms that could help us. But some of the things, as I said, the national commissioners that came after Gerard Selebi did not last long, and there's not even a single one of them that has finished the term. So we've had acting new national commissioner, acting new national commissioner, acting new national commissioner. So it's always been changing, and largely that is influenced by. I spoke earlier about how the ministers move. The new one moves out, comes in, and the new one is out. There's no exchange of notes, nothing. Same with the police. The new national commission is gone, then other one takes over, they don't talk. There's no handing over certificate. That which we are lectured on in terms of handing over, we don't do that at that level. So as a result, you have a new national commission coming in and starting things afresh, especially because the law empowers the president to appoint a woman or a man without prescribing the skills and qualification that a person must have. So if you're going to get someone who's not familiar with policing, it's going to take you that long for that person to try and understand what is the need of a constable on the ground before you can address that. And we worry about positions at the senior level around our offices and the likes. That's part of the problem that we have. So if we're to ask me about some reforms that you might look at, I spoke about one in my statement, that I think it's time that we revisit the Constitution as this Parliament of GNU might want to revisit the Constitution, the section of the Constitution that talks about the central command and control of the police. Let this national commissioner be held accountable for, yes, reports will come from province, as the Department of Education will do, but each province is held accountable for the performance of education in that province through the MEC's office. The Minister of Education will come and release results in the country as a whole, and yet the minister is not necessarily directly in control of what's happening in a specific province. We might want to adopt something similar to that. It's across different departments, but reserving a certain priority of crimes that cuts across the board that might need to then be elevated as a national priority crimes that be handled at the national level. So by so doing, you're going to also have a national commissioner having to worry up and prioritize his energy on specific things than to look after this entire big Titanic that we have as an organization. Typical example, honorable chair and members, you have a department of government that has got a DG, it's got DDGs, And there's so many DTGs per personnel that they have, which is a department that regulates how public service should work. The department itself, from public service themselves, they've got so much senior management amongst them. If you take that and balance it with the police and the responsibility of the National Commission, the police, it's almost impossible to manage. It's impossible. So it's about time that we decentralize a lot of things so that National Commission can focus on what the national government priorities should be and focus on that. So I think that is the main one that I thought I must put in there. But other than that, there are some pieces of legislations that are vested with the minister's office, which to some degree, I think might also need to be revisited. Some of them, Farm Control Act as an example. Once there's a corruption at the Farm Control Office in Pretoria, it's going to affect the entire country because that office is not able to improve efficiency in terms of how to facilitate licenses, and is not able to deal with people that are violating the act in terms of removing the licenses away from them. So simple because you have the whole country to worry about. But if that was given to a province, then the province will worry about that. The liquor, we have a national liquor act, we have provincial ones. So the provinces that really pay attention on their liquor act, they have better controls on how the sales of liquor is done in different provinces. But the national liquor is still there because it regulates this shipment of big liquor outside the country, things coming into the country. It focuses on those, whereas the provincial legislations are looking at things that are happening within the province. So whilst in the police, you want to decentralize and be able to control in a smaller scale at the national office on some of things that you need to focus on as the police, but there is also some piece of legislation that might need to be reviewed that will allow the police to be able to perform their task better. And I believe if we do those things, it might create some stability within the management of the police.
Thank you, General. General, just as a matter of interest, I just made a note. Of all of these Lieutenant Generals, you actually mentioned it earlier as well. All of these Lieutenant Generals, I think you said there are 10 or 11 of them at head office. How many of them are actually career police officers that came through the ranks? Because it feels to me, and going on the way that you explained it earlier, that we can actually save a lot of money that could go to the provinces to assist in ground level policing. But we've got this top heavy office, head office, call it head office, where I'm not so sure that it's making a significant contribution.
Yeah, well, honorable members, I'm not sure of the numbers. I'll be under correction, but by and large, those that are within the support environment, which carries the big numbers at the head office, the majority of them are professionals that came to the service without necessarily having to grow within the police. But you might find maybe in the provinces similar thing happening. But I think the challenge that we are having with regard to these numbers that we have, again, is the power that is vested to the National Commission by the Act. The National Commission can create a post and grade it to whatever level they want to grade it, and they appoint a person there. So we've moved from 2 deputies to 3 deputies to 5 deputies and back to 3 deputies. We moved from 2 divisions to 10 divisions. So we just divide the cake as we want. You divide to create a post. Our organizational development with qualifications that they have, they're not independent enough to tell us that you're not supposed to, cannot have this, because the budget doesn't allow it, the purpose and function and the workload of this job does not qualify this. But you're going to find the organizational development will tell you that, yeah, it's justifiable in terms of our tool to have a brigadier at the head office responsible for 2 people appointed as a brigadier versus a commander of OR Tambo Airport who's responsible for 1,000 members. Durban Harbour is responsible for 1,000 members, but it's a brigadier as well. OD will tell you that, and you can't argue with them. And we always say to them, you are not objective in what you do. You are doing it because the boss tell you he wants that block. So, honorable members, that controls in terms of the structure, if it's still vested with the National Commission, then we have a problem. Gerald Stolle signed the structure on what I drafted on my iPad as a proposal. When I walked out the door, the unions came in, the structure was signed on the day, according to my proposal. That's why today we have a division called Vispol and Operations, because I'm the one that proposed that we might want to come up with something like this. Said, no, I like it. He put it in structure, signed it. Without research, without doing anything, it's implemented now. So those are typical examples. So Parliament does not play a role in terms of controlling the structure. So maybe we might want to revise that, say, before you have the structure finalized, yes, you can engage with the labor and everyone else, but bring it to Parliament and it must be supported by your strategy. And then we can look at the money, total budget of what goes to compensation and versus what goes on operations and what goes to the executive versus what goes, because the cost of one lieutenant general in the police, beside the annual package of one individual salary, you have the support staff with you. So you spend at least easy 5 million rand per annum for one person. And add the furniture, the vehicles, the running cost of the office, it amounts to a lot of money. But those are things you don't pay attention on. So when you then ask yourself, is there need of that office? When you realize that no, actually there's no need of that office, you can do without it. Okay. But because someone we come from a time where National Commission decided to have the head of communication at the lieutenant general level, and it's been downgraded again. You're going to find another one who's going to upgrade something, and another one coming in and downgrade. It depends who's a friend that wants to be entertained at the time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, General. General, I want to move to the famous 5 March meeting. I laughed the other day. I went and watched it again on YouTube, and I saw it's probably one of the highest watched parliamentary portfolio committee meetings in a long while. You've said that the PKTT was highly effective. We've seen a lot of the results. On that day, General Khumalo spoke about it as well. The National Commissioner touched on it. Just in terms of the 5 March meeting, General Khumalo and Minister Mkhwanazi briefed Parliament on the PKTT's phase out and its successes. They presented it. We've all seen the presentation. But there was no objection from General Khumalo or anyone else for that phasing out. The way that the minister presented himself and the way that the National Commissioner concluded matters when we spoke made it difficult to see that there is a disagreement about the disbanding of the political killing task team. No one in the committee that I'm aware of said, no, wait a minute, there's a chaotic conflict going on here. What was the situation at the time? Because all of the messaging seemed aligned.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, and I must thank you first, honorable member, for allowing me the opportunity to appear before the Portfolio Committee. Honorable members, a normal culture is that the Portfolio Committee is going to write through the Minister to the National Commissioner and inviting the police to come and appear before them to present whatever the Portfolio Committee wants them to be presented. But in this case, I personally contacted the Honorable Chair of the Portfolio Committee and requested that he please, if there's a meeting coming up, he must invite me because I need to speak about certain things that are troubling me, that are affecting the organization. So he tried that meeting, I think it was early as February, if I'm not mistaken, and there was something that happened and it had to be postponed to March, and eventually we met on the 5th of March. So we would have met earlier than that. So I was not part of the development of the presentation. I did not ever know, because it was not shared with me, the presentation that was present. I was shocked to sitting in my office and I see here they are agreeing with what the minister is saying. And to me, it was disturbing, but I couldn't say anything because it's coming from my boss. That means my boss is in agreement with what the minister is saying. So he is the National Commission. If he decides, so it goes. I can't stop it. But the appearance before the committee, I agree with the honorable member that at the time when the presentation was made, the Minister of Police was in support of this winding down plan that was proposed. And the National Commission is the one who came with that proposal of this winding down plan. So therefore, I wouldn't have expected the committee to do anything about it because it was just an information sharing for noting. I don't think it was for the committee's decision, that one. The only one that for me, which perhaps some of the things being viewed the most, is my comment on it, where my part came in. I think my expectation on that one, Honorable Chair and members, is that I've hinted on the involvement of players outside the police, people that are in position of sensitive things. I introduced the problems that existed in 2011 going forward. I was expecting a follow-up from there, to say, you can't come here before South Africans, because Parliament is South Africa. So when we appear there, I thought I'm now reaching South Africans, whereas we are visual, everyone else can watch this thing live, and there's going to be some movements on it, and nothing happens. And so I was kind of, demoralized in a way that the place where I thought is going to make us to do something, nothing much happened. To be honest, Honorable Chair, the member of the very same portfolio committee that the Honorable Chairperson of portfolio committee knows very well, Mr. Adams, I don't know if he's here today, but his response on that day was clear to everyone that he cared less about what Khumalo is presenting. He cared more about the narrative he's pushing. He's the one that's been behind this promotion or the appointment of this young lady into the post of a brigadier in the police. When it was put in that very same meeting that Gerald Khan, his blue-eyed boy, was promoted without advertising a post from a rank of a colonel to a major general, without advertising a post. And there's no talk about that. But you want to criticize this one.
So, sorry, General, interrupting. I think General Masemola also said that included General Moodley as well.
Yeah, General, that was mentioned. But you would expect that the members to pause and say, wait, this appointment of this girl is not the only thing. Let's look at the entire problem. But because they were so focused on their plan, they ignored whatever that was presented and they focused on what they're doing. I mean, his opening remarks of the National Commission that day about the counter fight from members of Crown Intelligence was not necessarily taken forward. So I would have hoped that something good is done about that. But in as far as the task team specific is concerned, I don't think the portfolio committee will have done anything about it because this was just an information to share. The biggest problem for me was what is happening at the intelligence in the main. And I think at the time, I don't even think that the portfolio committee was briefed about the CJ Ops that is running in Gauteng, the counterintelligence operation and all the challenges we're facing. I don't think we share that with the committee on the day.
Thank you, General. General, furthermore, two or three questions regard. I think just for clarity's sake, am I correct then? I think the assumption, or I think you mentioned it in the commission as well, but is it that same member of the committee that speaks with General Khan?
That's correct. And the Inspector General of Intelligence.
Okay. Just in terms of the official record of 5 March, there was no reference to drug cartels or judicial capture or even interference. For example, the name of Kat Matlala wasn't mentioned on the 5th of March. And obviously it became central to your press briefing you did a few months later. Were they already known to you then, or did the evidence emerge later? Was it part of a sensitive investigation, something you couldn't have said then yet? And then a question touching on that, the March engagement didn't directly mention any ministerial interference. We had the question regarding Brown Mkhwanazi, where the minister said they're not acquaintances. Colleague sitting next to me later on laid charges against the minister when we found out that was not truthful. But the matter regarding manipulation within the MPA or the judiciary or threats to your safety that featured very prominently in later statements. Now, when did those concerns arise first? Because why were they not raised in the parliamentary discussion? And then to conclude those two questions is, looking back, do do you think that we may have been in a better position or better placed as a committee to be able to respond to those issues had they been included in the March presentation or in the March dialogue with some kind of indication or evidence or even an objection with regards to what the minister said? Thank you, General.
Yeah, Honorable Chair, members, the portfolio committee that sat on the day had its own agenda. And when you listen to the presentation that was made in general, I don't think the portfolio committee will have done much on it because the presentation was done by the executive authority, which is the minister who was leading that presentation. But the issues that were raised during the presentation that should have triggered the members of the portfolio committee to say, wait a minute, National Commissioner, your opening statement, you are saying this. What's going on? That is one. But the more was about me bringing into this committee a player of a person outside the structure of the police. Because I'm the one that spoke about Mkhwanazi. I'm the one who spoke about Mkhwanazi having this easy access to crime intelligence. So when I raise things like this, I would have expected the commission to act on it, especially because I tried to reach out to the minister and I failed. The minister is on the platform. Mkhwanazi says there is a brown Mkhwanazi who's close to the minister. The minister says, I don't know the fellow that Mkhwanazi is talking about. The least should have happened is to say, oh, wait. Minister, you're saying, Mkhwanazi, why are you saying that this man is close to him? And the minister, why are you denying this man? Right there and there should have been interrogated, and we get into the bottom of this from the start. But I understood at the time you were pressed for time. You had another engagement because the meeting was running late. I think you had to leave. So, and even the members, as they were engaging, they didn't engage that much on that matter. The allegations, for instance, that were made that the money from the secret fund account with crime intelligence is used to finance the PKTT. It was one of the things that were raised by the members, and in my address, I responded to that I never took money from the police station to the PKTT. The record speaks for themselves. Those are the things that were highlighted in the presentation that the portfolio committee will have said, but you are saying this, Mr. Adams, in this committee, but here's the police are saying this, disagreeing with them. So what are you getting from? So that robust interrogation of things that I was expecting to happen. But as I say, it happened towards the end of that meeting. But what I presented before the committee on the day is what for me was a concern. Obviously, I was not too much privy about more information of the relationship between Mkhwanazi, the minister, the Ketmatlalas, and the likes, because remember I had asked for a meeting in February. Shortly after the minister wrote the letter, that's when I asked. And shortly after the members were deprived an opportunity to be recognized during the Excellence Awards, that's when I requested for a meeting. But later, when the investigation continued, then we started discovering a lot of other things. And then I realized that some of the members within the portfolio committee are players into this. Let me take it out there into the public and not come back to the committee. But I must say, Honorable Chair members, the majority, I would say more than 90% of the presentation before the portfolio committee, you cannot falter the portfolio committee of not responding, except the percentage where I came in and I started talking about it. For any other person, they should have raised alarm to say, who is Mkhwanazi at crime intelligence? Who is this Mkhwanazi at the Minister of Police? Who is this Mkhwanazi? And the minister simply denies, and it ends there. That's my only concern.
Thank you, General. General, you'd remember on the day I actually asked the Honourable Adams to tell his handlers to back off because it became increasingly hostile in the meeting to the point where even some police members were sending me messages saying, hang in there, because it was just chaos. And he then accused me of being handled by the National Commissioner, as you would remember.
I remember very well that one.
It made it very, very frustrating. General, I've got two more questions. The rest I'll leave for later. I'll come back to the 5th of March later. But with regards to Richard Mkhwanazi, another example that I used is Major General Mboto's controversial promotion in the Hawks. do they highlight the need for more independent vetting? Because surely, I mean, the promotion of General Mboto in the DPCI last year was significantly controversial if you considered his background, and Richard Mkhwanazi's retirement, the fact that General Sithole signed off on his retirement and he retained his rank despite all the controversy around him, similar to Ria Piecha. How do we approach that? You have touched on it today. How do we make sure that that doesn't happen again? And then my last two questions, is would you say that there's still significant influence from Mkhwanazi in this whole ordeal? When I say ordeal, it feels to me like his name keeps popping up. It's almost like this thread that runs through the last 15 years. Is he still in there? I mean, I asked Minister Mkhwanazi in Parliament whether he'd commit to an open investigation regarding Richard Mkhwanazi's two sons, of which I think one of them runs the grabber unit that can tap phones in crime intelligence. And he committed to that. But obviously, if you look at what happened over the last few months, nothing happened. So that's the Richard Mkhwanazi one. And then my last question is regarding misinformation. You've spoken publicly about rogue elements within the system. Given the sensitivity of I think yesterday you touched on threat and risk assessments as well, particularly those concerning public reps, whistleblowers, and police officers that are at risk. What dangers do these leaks of information out of the rogue elements in, for example, crime intelligence or SSA for that matter, pose to those individuals? And do we know who these information agents are? You mentioned some of the journalists. Are there people that you can share with us that keep on, say, for example, using social media to drive a specific agenda? Thank you, General.
Honorable Chair, members, maybe let me start with the very last one. I sit here as the Provincial Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, and I've received, I'm trying to find this information. I had received an inquiry from the journalist about what Lieutenant General Sibiya is doing, that the General Sibiya has taken legal action against me on what I pronounced on the 6th of July. Honorable Chair, this is Abraham Mashego, a journalist from News 24, the one who's been handled by crime intelligence, amongst others. This Abraham Mashego, who started with these stories, and the one who I was told about by his fellow colleague that I spoke about before. The gentleman sends me a WhatsApp message, I cannot remember the date, I'm going to trace it, where he asked me about my comment about the legal step that General Sibiya has instituted against me. And my response to him was, Mashego, out of all these police officers that you have in South Africa and all the senior management of the police, you feel that's important to come and ask me. You are still pushing this narrative, and I hope you are not one of those captured. I use that word, I hope, knowing that he's one of them. I sent it to him. Because I don't understand why you bother coming to ask me these things. What is of a concern to you? I don't know any court papers to date. A couple of months down the line, I have not seen any court papers. I've not been served with anything. But he might have been briefed that there's going to be this court thing. So he must start asking me questions. So he's one of the enablers. And there are many journalists that we are part of the investigation. That's why I'm calling for a state security investigations against them, because I have a list of them. And there are a handful of them. It's just said that he writes for the same media house that has got very credible journalists who are doing a wonderful job within the very same News 24, who investigate cases of corruption, of matters of people, and they bring it to our attention, which force us to conduct criminal investigations. And yet we have these ones who then are used to publish the wrong information, that misinformation. So I felt that made me make that as an example and quote one journalist whom I've mentioned here. He will approach the court and do everything else, but I'm sitting before this parliament, I have evidence where he sent me this thing, and I'm still asking why you feel that you should ask me. And that communication between me and him, I screenshot that and I gave it to a friend of mine. I said, look at what this journalist is. And that message went all over the place. There was one, I think, journalist also in one of the radio station and TV who started criticizing me, whether it's necessary for me to respond like that. And I don't know what was I supposed to respond. How was I supposed to respond? Because the same person who took my face and put it on a newspaper, that I'm a corrupt person because of the defeating the end of justice case that happened in Richards Bay. It never apologized to date about that. So that is typical, some of the people that are involved with this misinformation. For this to stop, I'm going to hope that the lawmakers yourselves in Parliament, you are going to put measures in place to make sure that a journalist is not going to hide behind being a journalist and reporting without fear or favor if he's reporting things that are wrong and they damage other people's images. That they are going to not only be held accountable by that media house by losing their jobs, but they must end up in prison. There must be heavy penalty of the mistakes done by journalists. It cannot be that anyone else is going to be held accountable, but when it comes to the media freedom, it's gospel, whatever they say. It's wrong. It cannot be like that. So they are good journalists, but they're very bad ones also in the mix. The Mkhwanazi matter, I cannot say that he's still paying the part. Look, we might say, I've said yesterday that there are family members of General Mkhwanazi still within crime intelligence. I'm not accusing those family members of being wrong like Mkhwanazi. They might be good police officers. I don't have the facts. But by association, on the risk management point of view, you ought to be careful and say, the person associated with this one, the person was associated with was implicated in the following, therefore let me shield this one. Just a benefit of not this one being accused of being involved in the wrong things. Let me protect this individual by removing this person out of the sensitive environment and put them somewhere else. So there's some of the reforms that General Khumalo is trying to implement. Some of the reforms that have been blocked. And the manner to block them is for those members within to spread the information and take it out there to the public space. And there's no consequence for that, unfortunately. And so if the ad hoc committee were to really look at how to protect the information leakages within, and if it does detect it, like Mr. Adams, who then has, and Ms. Kola Barnard, who then are in possession of such sensitive information, they negligently take it out there, they should go to Paulsmoor and sit there for a while so that they learn something. It cannot just happen because they are executive, they are in parliamentarians, and it must be easy like that. If that happens, next time they won't take that information from there. Honorable Chair and honorable members of crime intelligence get arrested. The person who communicates out in the social media is an ex-police officer. The lady, your enemy, I forgot the name.
She likes to say she's my enemy, but you can say the name. Patricia Mashale.
Patricia Mashale. Patricia Mashale sends a WhatsApp to Mr. Adams and says, we did it. They communicate like that. We did it. They were in a mission to see to it these members of crime intelligence are gone. They communicate, they say, we did it. I know I was disappointed with Patricia when I saw that message, and I said, but this is a regarded person as a whistleblower in the country. So what is this now? Is this a whistleblowing? You cannot be a whistleblower if we are damaging an institution. We must go and talk out about something if you have failed through the structures to get matters addressed, then you can take it out and be a whistleblower. But you have a platform to address things. Why do you take it out whistleblower? So when the letter of disbandment of the task team was released, she's one of the people that circulated it on the 2nd of January. How did she get hold of it? Those are the questions that one is asking. So that you can see that within crime intelligence, they're not only dealing with parliamentarians or the journalists, they are dealing with anyone else that can spread the news, fake news. So those are the things that might need to be looked at going forward. To ensure that we have a clean system in the organization, is one thing to vet people coming in. And I said yesterday, I said I had an opportunity to be briefed about the system that SIU is using to try and maintain integrity within their space, that we must perhaps, I challenge maybe the portfolio committee to sit down with SIU and get to hear what is it that they do, how they do it, and build from there. Maybe there can be a better institution somewhere that can do better things. The bottom line is, Honorable Chair and members, it cannot be about you come in, you take an oath, and you are forgotten after that. You take an oath today, you walk out the door, you accept bribery, and you just continue doing wrong things, and nobody bothers. There has to be this constant assessment done throughout, so that you are evaluated whether you're still fit for a job or not. You cannot just leave a person forever to be there, not knowing that it's compromised already. So there must be that continuous, but it requires a policy. It requires, because it becomes an employment condition of police officers. So the legislation must talk to it, and the policy that comes from the minister must talk to it, so that the national commissioner can employ that when he employs these people to their service. I think that's just about, that's just about it. The issue with the CI, the problems, as I said, it's not Gerald Mkhwanazi really that I could say still have an impact. Maybe there is. I don't have evidence. I'm not in that division, but I can tell you, Honorable Chair and members, that we still have a lot of wastages within crime intelligence as a result of these leases that you are having. We still have a lot of mismanagement of funds within CI with regard to the easy payments to informers that are not controlled. A typical example, yes, you might say there's a frustration of the process introduced by the management there in terms of payment of the informers, but they've removed a lot of dedication that was at the provincial level to the national office when it comes to a certain figure that must be paid, because there are some crime intelligence members that will submit claims on monthly basis for 100,000 rand for this one and that one and that one, and they pay 10,000 rand to these informers and they collect the rest. And so they were living off that money. So until then the generals and the management start saying, we want to see production before you submit a claim. These vehicles that were collected from people like myself, for instance, who are not working at crime intelligence, but crime intelligence will use a secret fund to buy me a luxury vehicle and I keep it in my house. So there are many of some of the senior officers in the police that were in position of such, that General Khumalo had to do an audit on it and collect it. Unfortunately, one brigadier, Jans van Vieren, is one of the enemies within these people at crime intelligence, because she's coming from PSS, she doesn't know anything about crime intelligence. General Khumalo brings her there and says, do an audit on all these assets. When she goes and check where these assets are, she becomes an enemy herself, because she's doing a job, but she's painted as a bad person. And she's never been a bad person before. Suddenly she arrives at crime intelligence, she's a bad person. So it is those challenges that we're experiencing within. That's why I was saying, how do you then make crime intelligence to account in Parliament, where you have the committee seeing the open account and you have a committee seeing the covert account? So maybe if everything moves into one committee and be accounted at one place, then we're able to scrutinize the entire value chain. I challenge the committee and yourselves. I'm not sure if the Auditor General of South Africa will be able to share the report with you, but for sure the Joint Standing Committee maybe might be able to do that, just to show the audit that they've done at crime intelligence over the past 5 years, before Khumalo's arrival and when Khumalo was there.
Okay.
The proof is exactly there. You'll see that Khumalo has done so much to improve the work of crime intelligence. But because he's facing this much resistance, he ends up in prison today. And the whole South Africa thinks that he's a bad person, not knowing that he's the one who's been doing the job and is the one that is suffering today. So those are some of the things that end up undercover because of the nature of how the crime intelligence work, and it's not visible. He might not be confident to talk about it, but I'm raising it because, well, I'm not within that space, so I'm not going to be held accountable for such.
Thank you, General. Chair, do I still have 5 minutes?
Have you ended your questions? Have you exhausted them?
I have 3 very brief ones. That's actually 1. 3.
Yeah, remember, you share your time with your honorable member. So long as you have an arrangement on how
we do.
you are sharing the time,
We do.
I'm fine.
And I also wanted to say, Chair, it's her birthday today, so we must just didn't mention it earlier. General, 3 questions. The first one, the leases that you speak of in CI. Are you able to disclose whose properties are being leased internally, that they are not meant to obviously be leasing, where they're getting a significant amount of money out of CI? That's the first question. In terms of the so-called whistleblowers, do you have any indication that whether whistleblowers, or I don't want to call them influencers, but people that have been driving this narrative are have been handed brown envelopes, figuratively speaking? And the third one touches back on the threat and risk assessment issue, and I decided to ask it after your previous answer regarding the post on social media that we got them. The threat and risk assessment of my own family was shared on social media that was leaked from these very rogue CI members. There was zero consequence for them. I know there was an investigation. To this day, I don't know who leaked it, but it obviously puts myself and my family at risk. That's on the side. The question that I have is, you have an idea if any of that has been vindicated? Maybe I'm asking the wrong person, but I'm trying to get to a point where we can at least see some kind of consequence. Those are my 3 last questions, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Honourable Chair members, I think Gerald Khumalo, perhaps as a divisional commissioner within Crime Intelligence, might be able to respond to it. But by and large, almost everything that we've seen out there in the media, it's coming from that office of vetting. Some of us, our vetting application has been kept in abeyance for years now, and they don't want to process them. It's the same office that claim that this person was recruited by Crime Intelligence, was not supposed to be recruited, was given an irregular vetting certificate, whereas while they're still busy with it, they've not issued it yet. So that office and the members working in that office are compromised. And so it's no surprise that the records of your family members went out there in the media, because it can only be that office. And few people that's supposed to have control over such. The reporter I talked about that ended up with News 24 this past week, that should not have been there, because there are people within the establishment that does that. And we know who are they. The names of the people that their properties are leased, I might not talk about it because the lease is falling under the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence, so I might not be able to give the names. But I can safely tell that the past, which came to my attention, which needs to be confirmed, that one of the police members within Crime Intelligence, his property was leased by the very same Crime Intelligence. He's currently working at Crime Intelligence as one of the senior members within Crime Intelligence.
Is he one of the names that you have mentioned?
He's one of the names I've mentioned.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Are you done, Honorable Cameron?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For now, that's it. Next,
Okay.
later on, the Honourable Schikkeling will go on. Thank you, General.
Let's allow the happy birthday honorable member to field her questions. Happy birthday to you, Honorable Schikkeling.
Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate it. May I proceed for now?
This must be your happiest moment.
My happiest moment. So that you're going to give me a 5-minute extra, Chair. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a wonderful birthday present. Good afternoon, General. Thank you very much for attending this meeting with us. You alleged that there was deliberate obstruction of justice within the system. Can you perhaps share with us some documentary evidence that the minister or any other senior officials deliberately obstructed justice? You have documentary evidence.
Honorable members, the one is a letter that we talk about, the 31st of December 2024 letter. And the others are letters that are written by General Sbiya, directed to General Khumalo, If you look at the NSM annexure on volume 2, you're going to find them as referenced. The first one being the 31st December letter is annexed at NSM 5 on page 78 to 79. And other one information that we have is NSM 8, which is on page 223 to 224.
General, perhaps let me just clarify, besides the official letters that you have in your possession, you don't have any other documentary evidence?
Well, the one is not here, it's WhatsApp communications. They are not here with me, but the team can make them available if required. But that's another documented evidence that we have.
Thank you, General. So, I mean, you've said that on the 2nd of January, you were informed about the letter. How did it come to your knowledge?
It came through a WhatsApp. Someone that is close to me sent it to me on WhatsApp.
And are you willing to disclose who that person is to us or not?
No, I did not talk to him to ask if I should mention his name. I don't think he'll be comfortable with it.
Thank you. You repeatedly use the term political interference, yet you also concede that the minister has constitutional powers to determine policing policy. Where precisely do you think we should draw the line between policy and interference?
I think we need to visit the legislation, honorable members, that to be able to help you. I spoke about the Police Act earlier, and I made a reference to the office of this the Director General that is responsible civilian secretariat in the police. If that office is given the duties and the tasks that it's supposed to perform, then the minister need not to worry about things, because if there's anything in doubt on the minister's head, he must go to the DG. But the minister doesn't do that. And the minister will have a legal advisor in his office. He will rely on the legal advisor in the office. The minister will have a chief of staff. He relies on a chief of staff. A matter of fact, honorable chair and members, we were at one stage where I started realizing that something amiss is happening in this organization. When the minister sanctioned the management of the SCPS to go to Kivitz Kroon place in Pretoria, I'm sure some of you might know the place. We gathered there, and the entire senior management of the police was called. When we arrived there, the generals from the head office were told to be excused, except the deputies. So all the divisional commissioners had to pack their bags. They arrived there in the morning thinking there's a meeting because they were called, and next thing they were told they're not needed in a meeting. They left. We sat there and we listened to the presentation, and to be honest, honorable chair and members, I've been in the organization for this long. I joined the top management of the SCPS in 2011. What I experienced there in that meeting, when the advisor of the minister, Advocate Pikoli, was giving us a lecture about the very same act that we've been enforcing for so many years, was giving us a lecture about the powers of the minister, was giving us a lecture about what the minister can or cannot do. I saw that presentation as intimidation to us, to say to us, must toe the line, because the minister, exactly in your words, he has a constitutional right to do this and that and that. So that was a preparation of something. When I walked out of that meeting, the very same meeting, as I walked out, I told the National Commission, something is cooking here. Something is happening here. And I went to General Khumalo and the team were outside. I said, you better be prepared. There's a war coming. I cannot tell what it is. I can't put my finger on it. But from coming on this boardroom, coming out of this meeting, having listened to what Advocate Pikoli was presenting before us, you can't come and tell us about Section 205 of the Constitution, Section 206 of the Constitution. We are senior managers of the organization. We went to PAR to be taught about that. We went to university, some of us, to go and study that. We are practicing that every single day. We are appointed in terms of the very same sections of the Constitution. So who are you now to come and tell us? Advocate Pikoli, you think we don't know that? You are trying to influence us to be believing that when the minister takes a certain decision, it's within his powers. So I suspected from that meeting. I cannot remember the date. I'll give you the date of that meeting. Maybe we must get the presentation also of that meeting that Advocate Pikoli presented to management of the SCPS. And then you wonder, from that presentation, you can conclude that there was a preparation of something to say that the minister can now intervene. The Police Act outlines exactly what the civilian secretariat head must do. One of them is to give the legal advice to the minister. But in all these engagements, you don't see the DG's buoy in that mix. There's nothing about the task team letter. He's not there, the civilian secretariat. There's nothing about any reforms the minister wants to introduce, presentation to us as management, the meetings of the 6th with the PKTT and the National Commission here. I don't think DG's buoy was part of that. The minister hasn't. So every decision the minister has ever taken, he has never taken the DG, who is a civilian secretariat in his office, with him to take these decisions going forward. So the legislation provides for it. Why is he not using it? So what else can then Parliament do if the executive order is empowered by legislation, but the executive order chooses not to use it? Do you blame the legislature? No, you can't blame the legislature. There's a provision for it, but he ignores it. So honestly, when it comes to this, I will argue that the minister cannot come and claim that I have a constitutional or legal authority to shut down teams.
Thank you, General. I think it will be important for us to get the date of that meeting so we can just have some further clarity there. You've also indicated that the minister had never been briefed on the PKTT's work before issuing the directive. However, you yesterday indicated that you're aware that General Khumalo held meetings with the minister and the National Commissioner after the 6th of March. How do you know that prior meetings did not take place regarding the PKTT? And do you have any documentary evidence to prove the contrary?
Up until I started questioning about the case dockets that were taken to Pretoria, only then I became aware of meetings that had taken place. Because these meetings were held in Pretoria as early as January. They were held, I think, in February, and there were meetings in March and late March. I was not informed about all those meetings until such time, and I said, National Commissioner, I need a statement under oath about these dockets that have been taken away and the team been shut down, that whether did you authorize it or not. That's when I became aware that there was a proposal which was not taken by the minister of agreeing to his letter, but in the terms that the National Commissioner wanted to introduce. And the minister did not agree to that. And therefore, I think they realize that if that is not done, because I already said it on the 5th year, that you shut down the unit, you stop investigation, you're committing a crime. Here in Parliament, I said that. And I don't know whether maybe that is that what National Commission end up saying, you know what, I'm no longer going to entertain or make any new proposal to the minister. Let him allow Jerome Mkhwanazi to do what he want to do.
Thank you, General. So you allege that the crime intelligence has been in crisis since 2011 and that we're seeing similar patterns now since then, or to that time. At that time, then, the Minister of Police, Nathi Nthethwa, may his soul rest in peace, had ordered the closure of the Cato Manor unit. Would it be accurate to say that the current closure of the PKTT mirrors that situation?
I don't think I get the question correctly with regard to the Cato Manor versus the PKTT. If the member can repeat that, just so we can understand exactly the question.
The Cato Manor unit was closed down by the Minister of Police at that time. Is that correct or incorrect?
I'm not sure whether it was closed by the Minister of Police. I think the former general who was in charge of that team might come and explain. But what I know is that the members that were working at the Cato Manor, they were arrested, most of them. I think that's what led into the unit not working anymore. I doubt whether there was any directive for the unit to be shut down.
So you earlier indicated that there are detectives that were rotated to root out corruption, as some were found to be involved in illegal activities within the PKTT. How many members are we speaking of? Have they been charged for any wrongdoing, and are they still in the SAPS?
I think, honourable members, I wouldn't be able to give you the exact number right now and the whereabouts of these members. Safe to say that quite a lot of these police officers, I think somewhere in the 30s, that were arrested and charged. Whether they're still within the service or out of the service, I'll be wrong if I say upfront. that they are gone, all of them, or they are still in custody or not. It's some information I can make available, maybe through the portfolio committee. I can share that, or through the chairperson here, the joint standing committee, the ad hoc committee. If it's needed, then we can provide that information.
General, you state that the 121 dockets were removed from the PKTT on Lieutenant General Sabia's instruction, allegedly acting under the minister's orders. Did you record any formal objection in writing or open an internal investigation at that time to safeguard those case files and their evidential integrity, considering that most of them do come from your province?
Yeah, well, I never communicated anything to the minister, never spoke to the minister, neither did General Sabia. The only thing I did was to write to General Khumalo to ask him about this, what I'm hearing, about the dockets that have been taken to Pretoria and the reason for that, and he gave me the response on that. And subsequent to that, I wrote to the NPA in the province, because they had given us directive to arrest people. And so I had to tell the NPA that we have failed them, and we have failed our clients because we have not arrested anyone, simply because the dockets were moved to Pretoria, so they were not in a position to do that. So those are the correspondences that I had. But other than that, mine was to try to engage the minister through an informal way, which is engaging the National Commission. I would not have formally written to the minister and asked for a meeting and discussing this thing. When I ended up sending him in a WhatsApp, it was a desperate move to get the minister's attention.
Thank you, General. I actually want to ask you about that, because you did mention that you attend regular meetings of the Board of Commissioners. And surely such explosive allegations affect all of your commissioners. It's not just one province. Don't you think that it would have been appropriate for you to address it at that platform or sought assistance from your colleagues in the Board of Commissioners?
I said earlier when I appeared before you yesterday that, honourable members, the BOC, by law, it's supposed to be National Commission, Provincial Commissioners. But in reality, it is not. It's the National Commissioner and every other Lieutenant General, including Major Generals at the head office. The agenda is prescribed and is available for the members to look at it if you so wish. There are matters that have been tabled in that BOC for noting and some of them for discussion, amongst others. But as a provincial commissioner, we might have an opinion in that meeting, but the majority might vote against you. Let me give you an example of it. Example of it is when the Prim of Gauteng, with a good intention to fight crime in the province of Gauteng, but they started a unit that by law should not exist. The Mapanya that is famous. I raised that at the BOC. Then I said, this is illegal. It's against the law. The Premier must be advised. He's got good intentions, but it cannot be done. The law doesn't allow it. The very same senior managers in the police says, no, just leave the Premier alone. We like this proposal. The following BOC, legal services came up with a presentation, and they argued the same thing that I argued. Legal services. They presented that which is done in Gauteng, it's against the law. It should not be allowed. So this was when there was an engagement at the executive authority between the minister and the Premier at the time. But already these members were trained, and they were said to be part of the provincial law enforcement structure. So my argument in the BOC and the support from legal services was not taken serious at the BOC. So they continue with the training. But because legal services had already taken note of it, they went to the minister and said, the minister, you cannot sign this off. It's against the law. Obvious, the Premier and Gauteng one was not very pleased when the minister clearly didn't want to sign it. And as a result, to date, that unit, those group of members could not be incorporated into the Police Act as a result. So they are still there in Gauteng. I'm not sure whether they are enforcing the law or what they're doing in Gauteng, but legally they're not supposed to be there. So what I think at the time, which I even said and I sponsored the meeting, is that you cannot then as a province compare yourself with what's happening at the municipality. I think there was a competition between what's happening at the city of Cape Town, which by law can have such a law enforcement structure. in terms of Metro Police and law enforcement. It's the Act, Police Act provides for that. But the provincial government is not provided for. The legislation doesn't allow it. So I think when it was adopted in Gauteng, it could be perhaps because there were many metros in Gauteng that are not necessarily controlled at the provincial level, or they don't have necessarily a relationship with the leadership at the provincial level because of political dynamics in the province. In relation to Western Cape, where the provincial government and the local government is the same political party, and therefore the local government with the law enforcement gets more support even from the provincial level. So therefore, that's why there's no interest of initiating something else at the provincial level. They are fine with it being at the municipality level. So I think that's where the challenge was. It's a good initiative, I must say again, that was started in Gauteng, but unfortunately, it was not in line with the law. So you have it, then you appear yourself in POC and you present things like a shutdown. This, I must say, the issue of the political task of the closure of the team was not necessarily discussed in that BOC. There was never an agenda item to discuss that. The agenda items at BOC are things that are prescribed that we're engaging on, not operational things in details. So this one did not get a time in any of the BOCs.
Thank you, General. General, you said that the members of the crime intelligence will be forced to defend themselves and that the best way to do so is to tell the truth, and that when the truth comes out, this country will burn. You made that statement yesterday. Can you clarify exactly what truth you are referring to and why you believe it would have such a devastating impact on our country?
Honorable Chair and members, when the intelligence community operate, in order for them to be able to protect the citizens of this country, they must apply covert strategies that when you become aware of it, you might not approve of it. But they are necessary to protect the citizens. They are necessary to protect the country. So it is that which I was talking about, that when a safe house is rented for a particular individual for the sole purpose of protecting that person, and the safe house is then rented for this person to go and stay there. If it comes out in a public place, a typical example might come if for whatever reason, intelligence feels that the best way to hide this person against these criminals is in Camps Bay here next door. But the property that is found in Camps Bay, it cost 50,000 rands a month. And when it's presented before the citizen that we are renting a property for 50,000 rand a month, the first question is going to be asked is, why did you choose that one? Because it's so expensive. Any 3 quotations that you've used, why did you go for that one alone? You should have advertised this thing open in a tender so that you comply with the act in terms of procurement. So all these questions end up being asked. Whereas you want to hide this person. So you can't have a luxury of advertising. You go there specific, said, I want to use your facility in a safe. We've identified it's safe enough to protect this person. We put this person here. They negotiate on the side the cost of that and they put a person in it. But if it comes in open, you're going to start asking whether was this in line with the law. If it's not in line with the law, then you've broken the law. If you want to do this, you must go this fashion, we do this. And that will defeat the purpose of protecting such information. I'm using that as a typical example because it applies. The cost associated with it is one thing. The next thing will be whose properties that you are renting. That's why I said yesterday, you're going to hear the names of the owners of properties. Of some of them might be in this hall where we're at. And then you're going to say, yeah, you rented Mkhwanazi's property because of corruption. Yes, it's in Mkhwanazi's property, but it might have been a proper property to use at the time. That's why we chose that one. Unfortunately, Mkhwanazi did not declare that when he submitted his financial statements at the end of the financial year on his disclosure, because he's not supposed to, because this is a covert operation. He might disclose it on another platform, but not there through SAFs and the likes. So those are some of the examples that I'm using. There are many examples where you acquire something, you go and buy a vehicle directly from a garage, a Lamborghini. And then you're going to ask question, why do you buy a Lamborghini for a police operation? We don't understand as citizen, but because the intelligence wanted to infiltrate the Lamborghini crew. So you can't come with a test to mingle with the people that drive Lamborghinis. That must come with a Lamborghini as well to be in there. Until that operation is done, then we dispose of the Lamborghini somewhere else. So those are some of the examples that I can use, but there are many things that the intelligence community do to protect you and me that are done without necessarily following the same legislations that you pass here that you know of. They will know about it at Joint Standing Committee, not you. But it's within the law. Even with the Auditor General of South Africa, when it comes to audit, it's not every auditor that is allowed to walk in and audit there. It's certain categorized auditors that have gotten access to. So they audit, they produce report, and those reports are classified. You'll never see the Auditor General of South Africa standing before South African and talk about that budget and the audit done there. They won't say it. They'll produce report and keep quiet because it's a nature, not only for South Africa, all over the world. That's how it works.
General, I mean, your press briefing was bold. I don't know if I could put it another way. Obviously, there must be some of your senior colleagues and superiors within the police that did not take kindly to this disclosure, obviously. Do you have any records such as emails or memorandums or reports or threats even that you've received after this statement of yours on not only on your life, but that of your family? And, you know, what pushback have you received?
From my colleagues?
Yes.
I have not received any pushback from my colleagues directly. I like to believe indirectly, yes, I did, except Jairus Bia, who went on the national TV and started saying that I want to be a minister, that I shouldn't challenge a minister. I think that's a mistake they made by making a minister to sign a letter thinking we won't challenge it. That was his mistake. He thought we cannot challenge that because it's signed by the minister, and he was wrong. So other than him, the rest of the colleagues that directly coming to me with things, no, I cannot say there was any pushback, but there's been a lot of pushback indirectly through the journalist. A lot of media stories written. Some of those journalists that wrote bad things, they're starting to change their tune now. And they start connecting the dots themselves, which is interesting for me because, well, if they made a mistake, they must acknowledge that and be objective about things. That is just one, but it remains known that there is a relationship between some of the police officers with some people out there that speaks a lot. Whether those people that speaks a lot, they are doing those things being informed by police officers or not, I cannot confirm for now. But I know that Mr. Paul O'Sullivan is one of the very close friend of Jairus Bia, business partner, doing whatever thing they do together. The intelligent man in the country that is allowed by the state security or the intelligence community of this country to do as he please in this country. Because he brings in listening devices, he does as he please. And nobody bothers challenging him. And that is unfortunate. So he's one of the people that came very vocal on TV shortly after I made that press briefing. So whether was that voluntarily to defend Bia or was it due to Jairus Bia asking him to do that? I don't know. But I know very well that there's been a pushback indirectly from some of my colleagues.
Thank you, General. General, then I'm going to go to the allegations that you've made against my colleague, Diane Kohler-Barnard. You've accused her of misusing intelligence information. Have you seen any official classified documentation that is labeled with the information on that you cite is in fact being classified?
The list of the properties that were bought by crime intelligence are part attached to a statement. If you're not in possession of the DA statement that she issued, she attached that report. That is on one, which is issued by her. The second one I read to you yesterday. The questions that she asked in your portfolio committee, which she shouldn't have. Perhaps you should have told her that, colleague, this question does not belong. But it went through your portfolio committee to the police, and the response came in the same fashion. So those are some of the one examples that I can bring up now. Anything else that Ms. Kohler-Barnard might be involved with, I think we'll leave it to in-camera discussions with the bodies that's supposed to. Because the nice thing is that people travel and they meet, and wherever they meet, there's cameras. Then wherever they meet, there are people that are observing. And wherever they talk, there are footprints left on phones. Even if they delete messages, we retrieve them.
Thank you, General. I just would like to say that you have admitted that the information that you raised in the media statement, which was before the JSCI was constituted, was in the public domain, including the photos, because I went to go and look at News 24's article that came out before the honourable member put out the media statement. And the information, in actual fact, is similar. So she obviously got some of it from the media statement, including the photos, although we didn't, well, let me not say we, whoever put out the statement did not post the photos. So on what basis then do you say that that information that was derived from a News 24 article was unlawfully disclosed if it came from the media itself?
You said, Honourable Member, that is your colleague. So I will not be surprised if you somehow would want to protect her. But
Awesome.
I said yesterday when I presented that Ms. Barnard, Honourable Barnard, should be politically correct in this house, that she was sworn in as a member of the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence last year, or previous administration. I'm sure you know that. She was a member there. So she knows what crime intelligence does. So when she becomes aware of these things from the newspaper, she has an obligation as a lawmaker to approach a relevant committee and say, question number one, how does News 24 get hold of this? That is a responsible lawmaker. How does News 24? You cannot spread crime simply because it's not started by you. If there's a porn movie, someone makes a porn of an underage child, and you receive it and you circulate it further, you are participating in a criminal offense. You cannot use that as an excuse that it was already in the media, so therefore I have a right to share it further. Beside the fact that she was a member of the Joint Standing Committee before it was dissolved. She was there. She's a member of this House of Parliament as an MP, have taken an oath. So having the knowledge of what is happening at the secret fund account and having a knowledge about her obligations as a member of Parliament, and later in the year, in June, she's been sworn in again at the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence as a member there, but she still writes questions about things that does not concern the Portfolio Committee on Police. So I do not know with all what I presented, if there's anything else evidential that I should give it to you that might be of satisfactory to prove that she broke the law.
General, I just want to put it to you that it is our responsibility as parliamentarians to ask questions. I'm just making a statement. It is our responsibility to ask questions and to submit questions and to go to the media. So there's nothing, I mean, you acknowledge that Honourable Kola Barnard wrote to the Inspector General of Intelligence, which was the correct oversight channel. So there's nothing, what do you think was unlawful about her conduct if she actually did write to the IG as she was supposed to do?
Honourable Chair, honourable members, I'm going to repeat again. The evidence I presented before you should be enough to prove that I said she issued a statement with a sensitive information. Her political party, Democratic Alliance, issued a statement and said, when she did that, there was no committee. I came here yesterday and I said, that is not an excuse because she had taken an oath prior to that. So she knows the processes there. The fact that there was no committee is no excuse. But whatever that may be, I passed that. And I brought her back into the time when she was then sworn in the same committee this year. She's a member of that committee. I'm sure you agree with me, Honourable. But she still asks questions that are outside, that are the responsibility of that committee, but she asks those questions outside. What is the reason for that? That which I presented yesterday. 3 questions about these properties, even addresses. So when you ask a question like this in the Portfolio Committee on Police, it's a public thing. You are writing, a person who sees that question is a public thing already. You are disclosing that through the question in Parliament. You cannot therefore come and use a protection of Parliament and say, I'm an MP, I'm allowed to ask questions. You're asking questions in the wrong place. So as an MP who took an oath, you must be held accountable for it. I think that suffices. I said yesterday, if you want more information for me to share, I'll take you back to my experience in 2011, when the chair of the portfolio committee will sit on the high chair and pass questions to her, and the questions come over to the police. We have those records.
I'm sure the honourable member will clarify when it is her turn. General, I'm glad that you brought up the decentralization of the SAPS to provinces as your recommendation, because it's actually a recommendation that we've been making for several years. Please, can you advise if this recommendation is based on your tenure in Pretoria or as a provincial commissioner? And do you agree that the legislation already allows for this?
Honorable Chair and members, I'm glad you asked that question. Maybe what is missed, people don't understand, is my movement in the organization. In 2018, when Gerald Cele, when the National Commission sent me to KZN to go and act, towards the end of the year of the 2018, the suspended provincial commissioner reached an agreement with the National Commission to exit the service. And then Gerald Cele approached me and he said, but I spoke to the National Commission that you must stay permanent in this post. And I said, no, I'm not willing to do that. And the minister, I think he would have discussed with the National Commission. I don't know if they discussed, but we were at Gateway in Durban and he had a press conference there. He briefed the media when he was doing the walkabout in December. He made an announcement that I am now appointed permanent as a provincial commissioner. And I did not agree to it. I had asked two things. I said, do you want me to be permanent here? You're going to have to give me more money so I can leave my house in Pretoria and come and buy property where I can live. I'm on a top notch as is. I don't know if they would allow me to get into a notch higher than where I am. That's the first problem. The second problem is you rent a place for me in KZN and let me come and work here, but don't tax me on anything for the benefits that I'm going to get by staying in a fully finished state house. If you want me to be the acting provincial commissioner, because I've got a family and a house in Pretoria, I'm not willing to leave it. And so the National Commission then had to make a submission to both the PSA to ask if they can move me on a high notch, as well as SARS to ask whether can they exempt me from tax. Both responses came in January, February in 2019. They say, unfortunately, we cannot give you a high notch because the second notch from you is the DGs, and there can only be one DG in the SAPS. We can't take you there. The second one is we're not going to give you any excuse in terms of paying tax. If you stay if you get such a benefit, you're going to have to pay tax on. So based on that, they couldn't afford to keep me in Durban. Then I said, okay, well, tough luck, Minister. You should have not gone public about this. Should have waited first. Because the responses came, it was clear that I cannot then stay permanent. That's why I moved back to ORS in July that year when they brought General Jula to come and act. But when I was in Pretoria, I had an experience of 2011 up until 2019. When I was at Pretoria at ORS, I then felt for my own growth. I've been in a top management organization for so long. And I'm kind of familiar with operations at head office. How do you coordinate things and everything happening in the office? I've been involved with a lot of interventions in the country and then abroad. I then wanted to take a challenge of becoming a provincial commissioner because I can see that this is where the rubber hits the tar at the provincial level. The challenge is there that the provincial commissioners have that we don't have at the national level. Let me volunteer to be one of them. So I approached the National Commission, said, if there's any vacancy coming up of the Provincial Commission, please send me there. And then the one of KZN was coming up and the National Commission said, okay, well, I'm going to send you there. Then there was a delay, obvious, because they must consult the executive in the province until there was an agreement in March that, okay, we can go and start. That's how I went to KZN because I wanted a new challenge. I'm not in a good shape physically as I was when I was in Pretoria. Why was I in a good shape in Pretoria? Because you wake up in the morning, you go to the office at 7:30. Before you get to the office at 7:30, 5 o'clock, you're in the gym. Then you go to the office, you do administration, meetings and everything. 4 o'clock, you're guaranteed you're going home. You can still attend your children's school activities in the afternoon, do homework, whenever, then you sleep. You wake up in the morning. On the weekend, you can plan. If so-and-so has got a party on the weekend, you are guaranteed you are there. This phone doesn't ring. It doesn't ring at all. You can travel the length and breadth of the country. But as a provincial commission, you can't do that. Because the phone rings. The community wants service from you. So you must always be available. There's no time. Every gap you get, the time you are sitting here as a provincial commissioner, you have so many problems in the province that you must travel back as soon as you're done to go and attend to them. So the pressure at the province is that much higher as compared to the national level. So I wanted to feel that let me go there and see these men and women that are fighting with criminals on the ground. How does it feel like? Let me take the challenge. So that's how I ended up taking that position. So in taking that position is because it's a challenge for starters, but secondly, I knew for a fact that it's a 5-year contract. So consciously, I took a decision of going down because I did not want to sit in Pretoria and become a person who just draws a salary until I turn 60. So I knew I go to a province, it's a 5-year contract. The act says it's a management that must approach you, not you. So I knew for a fact that when I'm here, I must make a difference in these 5 years. And when the 5 years is over, then I'm gone. If the management wants to retain me, they will negotiate with me. If I agree, I'll stay. If I don't agree, then I'm gone. So it's a challenge that I took it on my own. It was not a promotion. It was just a transfer from the head office to go to the provinces. That's why I can sit at the province and still challenge all these people at the head office, because I worked there for many years, and they cannot come and think that they're going to overrule what we're doing at the provincial level. We need to respect the legislation that empowers the provincial commissioners to do policing in the province.
Thank you, General. I just might follow up on that is because I did ask that, do you agree that there is legislation that already allows for the decentralization of policing powers to provinces?
The Constitution talk about one police. And I know that the ruling party at one stage with the minister who came to join us, they were trying to drive this merging of the law enforcement within municipality into the SAPS so that we have one police, because that's what the Constitution says. I'm not a legislature expert. I'm not a drafter of this law. I cannot interpret it. I'm not the court. So whether there is one existing or not existing, I can tell you about the current working arrangement. The working arrangement is that there's one man or woman in charge of the police in the country, and that person reports at the national level, not at the provincial level. The only engagement with the provincial level is informed by the section in the Constitution that allows the executive, in terms of 206, to have an oversight over the police, and allows the provincial commission in terms of 207(3) to engage with a provincial executive once in a while. But there's no budget coming from the province. There's no accounting to the province. Everything is centralized at the head office. That is the current practice. Is that what the law says? Do I interpret it correctly or not? I don't know. But the only thing that I'm saying is that the current words that are written in the Constitution allows this arrangement that you're having. So perhaps the words written in the Constitution must speak differently than what is written currently. I don't know how it's written about health. I don't know how it's written about transport. I don't know how it's written about education. But those are departments that are decentralized. But the policy is directed at the national level. So how they operate, how is the act written? I never went to interrogate that. So it's that what I was making an example of. That because of the sheer size of the organization, the workload that exists there, to expect one person to be responsible for that, I think is too much to ask.
Thank you, General. So it is fair to say that you think that the South African police services will benefit through the decentralization of policing powers?
Not the South African police service, but the citizen of the Republic would benefit if we really interrogate, take the lessons from the past. I made an example of the Homeland Security we had then and how it worked. When we moved over into the new system, is it because we did not like what was happening back then, or we just wanted to create something new? We might want to start interrogating those things. And then we look at international setup in different countries, how to better manage the sheer volume of work get expert academics from different universities, might come with a better formula. And then we don't look at it political. We look at it in terms of the benefit to the citizens. What should be done? So that is not one party driving it, but it's a collective of government that says this will benefit the citizens of the country. Let's structure it in this fashion.
Thank you very much, General. Thank you, Chairperson. I'm finished with my questions for now.
Thank you so much. Democratic Alliance, Honorable Cameron and Honorable Skele. Happy birthday once again.
Chair.